what is stunning to me is that the 12th conference here, right? So some 3 people attending all of them. And there is always this nice exercise with the hot topic list, right? And I think I have attended some of these conferences, not only here in the US as well, and whatever kind of hot topic list I've seen, master data was always under the top 3. So you could now argue, why is that? Is just SAP not in a position to provide you with the right tools to manage master data? I think the answer is bifold. It's on the one side, it's about roles, responsibilities, and a process. And then it is about tools as well. So we've heard, I think, quite a lot already about the process and roles and responsibilities. And it might be a question whether you want to have 6,000 people maintaining equipment records or only 5. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. There are people that say you have to do this in a very, very centralized way because otherwise you will not get it accurate. And there are other people that say, the only guys that know exactly how an asset looks like are the guys on the ground that stand in front of the asset. And again, I think it's maybe a bit of a hybrid approach here because you have to make sure that you have, let's call it some templates on how master data should look like and what the process is that needs to be installed. And so I think, honestly, you need some group of people that manage that. And then you have, on the other side, of course, people that see the asset, that can really maintain the data, and that also see if something is wrong, if something in the real world does not match what they can see in the information system. And I think they need to get the proper tool to then also at least start some activity to get this corrected. And I think the one remark that was made that today, when we talk about master data governance, it's a different game as compared to LSMW. I think that's pretty clear. And let me get you some more idea about that. But maybe just to illustrate the challenge a little bit more, when we talk about a typical project, building a facility, or could also be just enhancing an existing facility or introducing some new assets, there is typically some design phase, and then you go for maybe detailed design done by a contractor, even depending on the industry and so on. And then you have some very collaborative processes on doing procurement and construction, because in some cases, of course, you might give that to an EPC, but you want to make sure that they buy from your approved vendor list and so on and so forth. So it's a very collaborative thing. And then at a certain point in time, of course, SAP kicks in. And what we could observe is that this may start rather late in the process, right? And then the other point is then data just hits the system. And it's a little bit like a big truck of data at a certain point in time, just comes there and drops it all. And it's a little bit like you have, for example, your EPC or your component vendor and so on, and they have some contractual obligations, and they will get you the data in whatever kind of format, on whatever kind of media, and then you have it, all at once. And that simply does not work, of course, right? I mean, you have to make sure that all of the data that you need is in the system, that there are no, shadow stores of data, but you also have to make sure that you enrich the data in the right way so that people can work with that, because not all of the data is delivered by the originators. There is, of course, a process of enriching it. And so what happens in this case is that your EAM or your maintenance or your asset management readiness may start late and then might even degrade over time because you start on the lower level of accuracy of the master data, and then later on it will even get worse. And then you start another project and invest a lot of money and bring it up again, and then it again degrades. So there are some analytics about how much loss this may really cause, and the numbers are just stunning. And it's not just about the loss, it's really about risk as well that is associated with that, because it can just be that somebody is using a wrong component for doing something in the facility, and a big mishap might be caused by that. And so there are a lot of impacts, as said, increased EH&S risk, but also increased maintenance cost. And it's also, and that was mentioned as well, I think Norm mentioned that, if people work with the system and they find wrong master data all the time, they dislike working with the system and it's even getting worse. So what is the answer to that? I mean, first of all, I said it's about people and processes and roles and responsibilities and all that. But then, of course, it's about introducing functionality as well that can help with that. And so the idea is to have really a staging area that is used to collect the information, enrich the information, qualify the information, and also make sure that the process steps, if somebody has to tick mark the data, that something is initiated, can also be a change request, of course, and then that people verify that before it actually hits the operational system. So that after you've collected, validated, enriched, transformed, and then loaded the data into that staging area, then it may hit the ERP, so that the maintenance readiness comes before the facility actually goes live. And so it's more a phased and progressive handover of all that information. It's much more audible as well, or auditable, always have to, and it's the same thing with preventive and preventative, always mix that up maybe because I'm not a native speaker. Howsoever, and then of course you have all the benefits that you can see from there, reduced risk and increased availability, production and so on. But one of the most important things here, to my understanding, really is that you get also much more satisfied users. And satisfied users will put in better data, because they like more to work with the system when they find something that is just accurately reflecting what is going on in the environment. So now, talking a little bit, and there is much more detailed information on that, of course, but just to give you the big picture, I mean, there was one other SAP presentation on asset information management today already. There is another one tomorrow. And if you couldn't attend the one today, you obviously get the slides as well. But I mean, we see that we have to transfer data from any kind of engineering data source into the business systems. So they have the engineering data on one side, and that could be any source. It could be your own engineering data warehouse. It could also be some other source, may it be an OEM, may it be whoever it is, right? So the question is how to get it transferred and enriched. And as already suggested, there needs to be a staging area where you put all these also regulations in there, where you put the workflows in there, where you have an opportunity to qualify the data and enrich the data before it actually goes on the ERP side. And of course, when we talk about this, this is about structured and unstructured data. It could just be some kind of document. It could just be some kind of, a serial number, whatever it is, that is just a number or just the characteristics of a certain object. And it can even be that this is some 2D or 3D animated graphics that you would like to use in the user interface in order to pick spare parts or to make interactive documentation about how to repair a certain asset part of the business system. And so what we are doing is providing the tools for making that happen. So it's on the one side already mentioned the master data governance, and we have built together with Utopia the respective objects for enterprise asset management into the master data governance as well, so that MDG today can not only handle things like business partner or material master, but also things like function location and equipment. Then on the other side, when we talk about the more unstructured data, by our partner OpenText, there is a product called, or a solution called Extended Enterprise Content Management that manages the unstructured data. And we now have a relationship between these two, between MDG and OpenText as well, so that you can use the workspaces in OpenText to collect the data and then let MDG operate to take over for the structured data, enrich it, and then transfer it into the ERP. And Visual Enterprise, dealing with animated 2D and 3D information, can be part of that as well. So these are not all mandatory items. I mean, you can start somewhere, and you better make a plan on how to approach this. And as said, the plan, first of all, starts with establishing a model on how you want to deal with that. And now the next step is, of course, when we talk about engineering data or any other data at the end of the day, mostly today, these are one-on-one connections. You know, to establish, by means of data services or whatever it is, a connection to another data source. And so our idea was, and it was mentioned today already as well, that this is just suitable for establishing a business network. Because if you have, at the end of the day, end-to-end connections, you know, multiple OEMs, component manufacturers, EPCs, and so on, dealing with a lot of operators, then it's just not efficient to do that, establishing one-on-one connections. And so the idea was to use a cloud-based, in this way HANA Cloud platform-based solution to establish this asset intelligence network as a platform to interchange information. And so the idea is, in that space in between manufacturer, OEM, service provider, operator, potentially EPC or other contributors as well, to have information like nameplate info, maintenance strategies that are being recommended, service bulletins, whatever it is that can come from the OEM and is valuable information to be used by the operator, but of course, if needed, add governance to that piece as well. So there is a relationship between the Asset Intelligence Network and MDG, if you like. It's optional, right? But in this case as well, information coming in needs to be qualified before it actually hits the ERP. Other way around, it's the same. I mean, if you have a service provider you're dealing with, or the OEM you have an agreement with, that you bring back data to him, and that again, of course, under all these things around data protection and privacy, so again, you have to qualify what should actually leave your company. But this again is much more suitable if you use a cloud-based platform to make that happen. And there is a nice link if you want to have more information on our public website. Just go for AIN. Start in April. On the occasion of the Hanover Industry Fair, with the first scope aiming on the OEMs providing model and equipment data via the AIN, and the operators being able to link that data to their back-end objects so that they can consume what the OEMs can deliver. But of course, the scope will be pretty much enhanced afterwards with the next releases. And since this is a cloud-based application, you know, it's in our control when we add functionality, and it's much more convenient for you, of course, to consume that. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, this was a mock-up we had built last year. So as you can see, this is pretty much Fiori style, so really a different user interface from what you're maybe still used, giving a very first and very brief and intuitive access to what is going on in the space, right? So about the models that you have access to, the equipments you have access to, and so on. Then going down to the component structure, to the maybe spare parts that are being filled in there, so that you always know by means of the information that is coming in, what is the latest revision of that part, are spare parts available, and so on and so forth. And this is always up to date because it is maintained by the OEM and gets just updated same second when you access it. And then, of course, also maybe just in some cases you want to maybe replace one pump by another pump. So it might be of interest as well, what are the other pumps that this OEM can offer? Or what are the other pumps that are already in operation? And then up to linking that to our predictive maintenance and service solution, so that you can even actually, for this one equipment, see what is the fingerprint in terms of vibration analysis currently, right? So it's really a window into the information about those specific models and equipments. So with that, many thanks for your interest in how SAP can contribute to the problem of dealing with asset master data. And I'm looking forward to the next session.